everybody? Welcome to Capital Combat. Name says it all. I'm Hakeem Branch, and today we're going to talk about UFC 260 going down this Saturday on ESPN Plus pay-per-view. In this, we have a title fight for the biggest prize in the business, and that's the UFC heavyweight title. The two combatants in that fight are title holder Stipe Miocic, who holds the record for the most title defenses in the heavyweight division, versus Francis the Predator Ngannu, who is coming on a very strong win streak, knocking out everybody in his path. Also on this card, we have as the co-main event, Tyron Woodley versus Vicente Luque in a welterweight fight. And we did have a featherweight title fight between Alexander Volkanovski and Brian Ortega that was scrapped because of COVID complications. And that's really disappointing because that was a really good fight that I think a lot of us were looking forward to. But that, that's the aim of the game, and sometimes these things happen. So hopefully there's no health issues for Volkanovski and he can return pretty quickly, and we can get that matchup within like the next couple months. All right, so let's talk about the Woodley fight really quickly. I'm gonna maybe spend about a minute or so on this one. Something that Tyron Woodley said really bothered me, and that was he couldn't quit until he got the title again. Like, he doesn't feel like he is ready to go. And, to me, that sounds like somebody that can end up being hurt. One of those guys that, could end up with like a slurred speech later on in his career, or life, I should say. He's probably going to retire within the next couple years, good or bad. But that's something that kind of bothers me with him, especially with the performances that he's been showing pretty much since the Kamaru Usman fight, where he's looked completely flat against everyone that he's fought since then. He looked flat against Usman, he looked flat against Burns, he looked flat against Covington, and I really expect the same thing here with Luque. Luque is a very good, well-rounded fighter. Everyone pretty much knows the book on Tyron Woodley, what he's gonna do, and now guys are really keen on shutting that down. So I think we see that again, and it may end up like the Alistair Overeem, Junior Dos Santos, Anderson Silva situation, where they just end up having to cut their losses and cut Woodley from the roster. He had a great run in the UFC. He was a title holder. He was a former Strikeforce champ. The man has had a very good career. It's nothing for him to be ashamed of. But I feel like pride is kind of in the way of what he has accomplished, and walking away with his head held high, knowing that he did have a great run. But he could go in there and starch Luque, and then none of this matters. That's why they still fight the fights. So like I said, I'm taking Luque by decision in that fight. It's 3 rounds, the first 3-round fight for Woodley in ages, probably since the Robbie Lawler fight, which was I want to say like 3-4 years ago. Can't remember off the top of my head, but it's been a while for Woodley. So let's get into what we came here for, which is the main event. You got Stipe coming off a win against Daniel Cormier in their trilogy fight. Excellent fight. Ngannu coming off the knockout of, I believe, Jairzinho Rozenstruik. There wasn't much to go on in that fight. It lasted less than 30 seconds. He went in there, charged him, knocked him slam out, and it was all she wrote. Now, we have a lot of questions going into this fight, even though we have seen these guys fight before. Now, we got Stipe, who's a former Golden Gloves boxer, very good wrestler. He is a mixed martial artist, and he mixes it up very well. as he showed in their first fight. Ngannu, they say since that loss that he took against Stipe, he's been working on his wrestling. But he hasn't been in there against anyone to show how much that part of his game has evolved, because he spent about, on average, 2 minutes in his last 4 fights of cage time, which is insane. But we know that he is one of those guys that if he taps that chin, you're going out for most people. But we're dealing with the top, the cream of the crop, the elite. Stipe has already taken Francis's best shot. Now, there were a few factors going into that. That was Francis's first, title fight. He's, eager. He wasn't as well trained in MMA as he is now, possibly. But he probably rushed a few things. He could have been a little bit more technically sound and put his punches together a little bit better. But nevertheless, he has shown that he doesn't have to have technique to mollywop you. So in that first fight, Stipe took his best shots, several of them, and proceeded to use that Golden Gloves level boxing skill, which is pretty high level when you're talking amateur boxing. That's state championships. You can go all the way up to the nationals, and so that shows how good he is with his hands. He showed it against Daniel Cormier with those left body shots that led to the knockout in that fight, and also the combinations late in the fight in the third fight that led to the victory for him. So when it comes to the technical toolbox, Stipe definitely has more tools in his box than Ngannou does. But Ngannou has a much bigger hammer. But like we saw in the first fight, Stipe can pretty much make that hammer useless. Now, we will see Stipe attempt to take him down, and we will see Francis's takedown defense and see whether it has evolved or not. Also, I would like to see him kind of go at Stipe and try to take him down as like just to turn the tables, try to get some top position and possibly some ground and pound. But like I said, Stipe is very good when it comes to his wrestling, and he may not be able to be successful with that, but I would still like to see Francis try. Overall, I do think that Stipe still has more tools, and the grit has been shown that he can take Francis's punches and keep coming. One other factor is they're in a much smaller octagon than they were the first time, which means their footwork is going to be paramount here, because you got to be able to move in those tight spaces to maneuver around these two behemoths of men to get out of the way of shots. You won't be able to just back up and kind of circle wide, and you have a lot of octagon real estate to get away. It's going to be a lot tighter. It's a lot easier to cut the octagon off in the smaller cage. So that could play to both men's advantages, because if Stipe is landing like more technically the better, straighter shots, the more crisp hooks, the better uppercuts, that's going to wear Ngannou down. They've been talking about improving his cardio, but he hasn't had to use it outside of being in the gym. And using it under the lights is a different thing. It's up to him to show up and do it. So I'm still going with Stipe by decision. I believe that we see pretty much the same fight. Maybe Francis gets tired a little bit later in the fight than he did in the first one, but I still see him getting tired, and I still see Stipe being able to just grind out, keep him on the ground, and once he gets him down, and be able to score enough to get a decision. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I'm not a huge knowledgeable guy when it comes to like the gambling and the betting lines, but it is still showing Francis as a slight favorite to Stipe, and I'm confused as to why, because of how well he handled Francis the first time. So if you are familiar with that aspect of mixed martial arts and betting, hit me up in the comment section and let me know why that is, so you know you can educate me, because I'm a student and I love to learn about, you know, all the assets of the fight game. So also this weekend we got Alexander Povetkin versus Dillian White in a heavyweight boxing rematch that occurred last summer. In that fight, Povetkin was hurt twice, dropped by Dillian White before finishing him with a nasty left uppercut in the 5th round. So Rob may break that down in a video of his own. So, but if not, I'll be back to break that one down too. So make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel so you can catch not only that video, but the recap of both of those fights, because we got some really good technical skill from all men involved in these fights. So we'll break down how the fight actually happened compared to what we thought was going to happen. And I think that you all will want to see that as well. So like I said, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and we'll catch you all in the next video. Until then, fight on.
Round one, and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and cost. My fists are on fire, I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage, keep thinking that it's a game. I kick rhyme, hurricane. I told them I don't play, I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.